Listen, right now, as you read this, there is a world sitting 225 million kilometers away from you. Red, silent, frozen. And for thousands of years, humans looked up at that dim red dot in the night sky and felt something they couldn't explain. Fear, fascination, a strange sense of recognition. The ancient Romans named it after their god of war, not because they knew what it was, but because something about it felt wrong. They were more right than they ever realized. Mars is dead. But here's what no one talks about. It wasn't always dead. 4 billion years ago, Mars had oceans. Real ones. Scientists estimate that ancient Martian oceans may have covered nearly 20% of the planet's entire surface, comparable in size to the Atlantic Ocean on Earth. It had rivers, valleys carved by flowing water, a thick atmosphere that trapped heat and kept the surface warm. Mars had everything. Everything a living world needs. And then, it lost all of it. Not slowly, not gradually. It was stripped, violently, by forces it had no defense against. And what remains today is something that should haunt us far more than it does. Let's talk about what Mars actually is right now. Because most people imagine it as just a dry, reddish desert. That's not wrong, but it's dangerously incomplete. Mars is the fourth planet from the Sun. Its diameter is about 6,779 kilometers, roughly half the size of Earth. Its gravity is only 38% of what you feel right now. If you weigh 80 kilograms on Earth, you'd weigh around 30 kilograms on Mars. Sounds interesting, right? Here's the part that isn't. The atmosphere on Mars is 95% carbon dioxide. The oxygen level? A fraction of 1%. One single breath of Martian air wouldn't just leave you breathless. It would kill you in minutes. And the temperature? On a warm summer day near the Martian equator, temperatures can briefly reach around 20 degrees Celsius. That sounds survivable, almost pleasant. But at night, on that same spot, the temperature drops to minus 80 degrees Celsius. In one rotation. No gradual transition. No comfortable evening cool. Just a violent swing of 100 degrees within hours. Your blood would freeze before you could process what was happening. But none of that is the most disturbing thing about Mars. The most disturbing thing is what's on its surface. Valles Marineris. Say that name slowly. This is not a canyon. The word canyon doesn't come close. Valles Marineris is a system of chasms stretching over 4,000 kilometers across the Martian surface. To give you a sense of scale, the Grand Canyon in the United States is about 446 kilometers long and 1.6 kilometers deep. Valles Marineris is nearly 10 times longer. And in places, it plunges 7 kilometers deep. If you placed it on Earth, it would stretch across the entire United States from coast to coast. And scientists still aren't entirely sure how it formed. One leading theory suggests that as Mars cooled billions of years ago, its crust cracked. Like the skin of a drying fruit, shrinking and splitting under its own weight. A scar that formed as a world slowly died. We are looking at the death wound of a planet. And then there is Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the entire solar system. Not on Earth, not on Jupiter, not anywhere. Right there, on Mars. Olympus Mons rises approximately 22 kilometers above the Martian surface. Mount Everest, the tallest mountain on Earth, is about 8.8 kilometers high. Olympus Mons is nearly 3 times taller. Its base is so wide, roughly 600 kilometers across, that if you stood on its summit, the edges of the volcano would be beyond the horizon. You wouldn't even know you were on a mountain. And here's what makes this deeply unsettling. This volcano may not be fully dead. Geological evidence suggests Olympus Mons may have had eruptions as recently as 25 million years ago. In planetary terms, that is almost yesterday. Some researchers believe it could still be volcanically active deep beneath the surface. A sleeping giant on a supposedly dead world. Now here's the question that keeps planetary scientists awake at night. Where did the water go? Because it was there, undeniably, absolutely there. NASA's Mars rovers have found ancient riverbeds, smooth, rounded pebbles that could only have been shaped by flowing water, minerals that only form in the presence of liquid water, dried lake beds stretching for kilometers. The evidence is everywhere. Mars was wet, and then it wasn't. The leading explanation comes down to one catastrophic loss. Mars lost its magnetic field. On Earth, we have a powerful magnetic field generated by the churning molten iron in our planet's core. This field acts as an invisible shield, deflecting the constant stream of charged particles blasting outward from the sun, what we call the solar wind. Mars once had this shield too, but roughly 4 billion years ago, Mars's core began to cool and solidify. The internal churning slowed, and without that motion, the magnetic field collapsed. What happened next was slow, relentless, inevitable. The solar wind began attacking the Martian atmosphere directly, stripping it away, particle by particle, layer by layer. Over hundreds of millions of years, the atmosphere thinned, pressure dropped, temperatures plummeted. And the water? Without atmospheric pressure, liquid water cannot exist on the surface. It either evaporated into space or froze deep underground. A planet didn't just lose its oceans, it was erased. But water didn't disappear completely, and this is where Mars stops being a dead world and becomes something far more complicated. NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter has confirmed massive deposits of water ice hidden beneath the Martian surface. The polar ice caps, clearly visible even from Earth, contain enormous amounts of frozen water mixed with dry ice. Scientists estimate that if all the water ice on Mars were melted, it could cover the entire planet in a global ocean roughly 35 meters deep. The water is still there, just locked away, frozen, waiting. And beneath the surface, something even more provocative has been detected. In 2018, the European Space Agency's Mars Express spacecraft detected a signal beneath the southern polar ice cap, a signal consistent with a subterranean lake of liquid water, roughly 20 kilometers wide, sitting about 1.5 kilometers below the ice. Liquid water, right now, on Mars. And that changes everything, because wherever we have found liquid water on Earth, no matter how extreme the environment, no matter how crushing the pressure or how acidic the conditions, we have found life. In volcanic vents at the bottom of the ocean, in frozen lakes beneath Antarctic ice, in pools of sulfuric acid, in the driest deserts on Earth. Life finds a way, every single time. So the question is no longer whether Mars could have supported life billions of years ago. The question is whether something is still alive down there, right now, beneath the ice, in the dark, waiting. We have sent over 50 missions to Mars, more than any other planet. Orbiters, landers, rovers. Perseverance is there right now, drilling into ancient rock, collecting samples, searching for biosignatures, chemical traces that life once existed. Ingenuity, A small helicopter that was only supposed to fly 5 times as a technology test ended up completing over 70 flights before its mission ended. We built a helicopter and flew it on another planet. And yet for all of this, for all the images, all the data, all the soil samples and chemical analyses and radar scans, we still don't have the answer. We still don't know if Mars was ever truly alive. We still don't know if anything survives beneath that frozen surface today. And that silence, that complete, unbroken absence of an answer, is somehow louder than anything we've found. Mars is not just a red desert floating in space. It is a warning. A planet that had oceans and lost them, that had an atmosphere and lost it, that had warmth and lost it, that may have had life and lost that too. A world that was on the right path, and then everything went wrong. When we look at Mars, we are not just looking at another planet. We are looking at what Earth could become. A cold, silent, rust-colored tomb